At one point you're cruising in your Ferrari at 180 miles an hour, but then... These are untold stories of wrestlers. And we've got to start with Brock Lesnar. In the year 2000, Lesnar signed with the WWE, but within just a year, he faced serious problems that could have messed up his rising career. You see, on a Friday night back in 2001, Lesnar got arrested in Louisville, Kentucky, as they suspected him of possessing large amounts of banned substances. It was a big deal, but later, they figured out that what he had was actually legal stuff for growing muscles. So he got off the hook, and Lesnar kept on climbing up the wrestling ladder, but this wasn't the last time that Lesnar got into trouble. We all know that Brock Lesnar really likes hunting, but in 2010, his love for hunting almost got him into big trouble. He did something wrong when tagging an animal while hunting, and even though 2 charges were dropped, he still admitted his mistake. So the Beast had to pay a fine of $1,725 and couldn't go hunting for 6 months. This was a tough time for him, and it made people wonder if it would affect his wrestling career. Fortunately though, Lesnar learned a valuable lesson from this experience, and despite the setback, he has gone on to become one of the greatest wrestlers to date. If only my boy Hulk Hogan learned his lesson, because did you know that Hulk almost committed suicide? It was back in 2007, after he had been on top of the world for more than 20 years. His show, Hogan Knows Best, was in big trouble, about to be axed because of family tensions. And if that wasn't enough, he got a call that his son Nick had crashed a car after drinking, leaving a friend with serious brain damage. Then Hogan hit rock bottom emotionally. His wife Linda hit him with divorce papers, demanding custody of Nick, alimony, and for Hogan to foot the bill for Nick's health insurance. It felt like there was no way out. One lonely night in his Florida home, Hogan, with a mix of rum and Xanax in his system, had a gun in hand ready to end it all. But then, out of the blue, a lifeline appeared. Lila Ali, a co-worker and friend, called him.
I was just being me, calling him, and gave him some advice, and I guess it worked out well.
Hogan believes he's still here today because of that unexpected call from Ali. Talking about guns, here's a story about Scott Hall, because before Scott Hall became Razor Raymond, he was just a bartender in Orlando, Florida. And on a fateful night in January 1983, everything changed. Trouble started at the bar over a simple disagreement about a girl. The argument got worse when an angry customer smashed all the windows of Hall's car in the parking lot. In the alley, the bar manager and the upset customer were talking it out when Hall couldn't stay away. Suddenly, Hall threw a really strong punch, making the man fall down. But things got even scarier. Hall thought that the man had a gun. They struggled with danger all around, and after a tense moment, Hall managed to grab the gun. In a quick decision, he fired, the sound echoing in the alley. The man dropped to the ground, lifeless, with just 1 shot to the head. Hall got hit with a serious charge of second-degree murder, but luckily, the case fell apart because there wasn't enough evidence. But the dark memory lingered. Scott Hall's friend Kevin Nash thinks this incident played a part in Hall's later problems with drugs and alcohol. And for the next one, I've got a saying, and it goes like, you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends. Well, CM Punk knows that saying really well, because when he was a teenager, he made a tough choice to leave his family in South suburban Chicago, and he knew it was a decision he wouldn't turn back from. He and a bunch of friends started wrestling together, calling themselves the Lunatic Wrestling Federation. At first, they were just a small backyard show, but something amazing happened. They got a lot of fans, including me, and became really popular overnight. But even with all that success, Punk, whose real name is Phil Brooks, had a big problem with his brother. You see, thousands of dollars were mysteriously disappearing after their shows. Most of it was ending up in the pocket of Punk's own brother, Mike Brooks. When Punk figured this out, he had enough. Let's say the so-called company fell apart once they couldn't support themselves, and Punk hasn't talked to his brother since. Now, let's shift gears from Punk's wrestling drama to the grand stage, where there was no one bigger than Andre the Giant. Standing at about 7 feet, he was a giant both in size and legend.
Fans, take a look at this. Can you believe that? Perhaps even, let's compare it to the size of my head.
He was able to drink over 150 beers or finish an entire crate of wine in one go. And when it came to food, he could eat 12 big steaks or even 15 whole lobsters. Now that's a giant appetite. Normally, Andre was a gentle giant, a chill guy, but get him mad and he turned into a force of nature. Despite his calm nature, some people for crazy reasons thought it was a good idea to pick a fight with him. One time, 4 guys decided to prove something by messing with Andre while he was just trying to enjoy a quiet drink. When Andre finally had enough and decided to show them what's what, these bullies quickly changed their minds and tried to run away, but the fired up giant wasn't having any of it. The 4 troublemakers thought they were safe hiding in their car, but Andre wasn't having that either. He straight up lifted the car and flipped it over. I mean, that's kind of thrilling. Larger than life stuff you would expect from a legend like Andre the Giant. Now, did you ever hear of Haku? He might not be in the spotlight much these days, but back in the wrestling world, he was a legend. And you know what? Andre the Giant was scared of him. Now, if the mighty Andre the Giant was scared of someone, you know that someone is not to be trifled with. Now, Haku isn't exactly a giant, but his reputation as a total bad guy comes from some pretty wild incidents. Let me tell you one of the craziest. You see, there's the story about Haku in a bar. Some guy had the courage to call wrestling fake right in front of Haku. Now, Haku is the guy you don't want to mess with, and my guy knew too moments after he said this, because Haku bit off the guy's nose during a bar brawl. Yeah, that's how seriously Haku took his wrestling, but that's not the only story. Another time, the police tried to handcuff him when he was doing the good deed of breaking up a fight. Now, you'd think handcuffing a guy like Haku would be a piece of cake, but no. He just looked at the handcuffs, snapped them off like they were made of paper, and went back to breaking up the fight. Talk about a power move. And here's what Jake the Snake Roberts had to say about Haku.
He was a badass, man. Put it simply, he was a badass. I watched him, Haku. Haku decides he wants to challenge Earthquake to a sumo match. So they broke it down and had a sumo match in the locker room with all the slapping and punching, and he didn't get shoved around. The fact that he didn't get shoved around tells me I don't want to with him.
Against a bad dude like Haku.
Yeah, buddy. Everybody was running when it was going on. They started, fuck this, man. Somebody's going to get hurt. I don't want it to be me. You know?
That's the level of respect people had for Haku's power. And I have the same amount of respect for you if you click that like button and watch this video here.